Ladies and gentlemen, Reds, welcome to the brand new Red or Alive podcast. I'm your host tonight, and I'm joined by two special, in more than one way, regulars. They'll be joining me weekly, Ben and Rick. Ben, how are you, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. Been a long time coming, this, mate. So, as you've seen off stage, mate, nearly fucked it up before we've even started. But here we are, looking forward to it. And no better way to kick off a pod just after we won the league, you know what I mean? Number 20. So, here we go.
It's not bad. It's not bad. When we last done it, anyone that would have followed us before was a little bit more depressing times for us watching empty stadium COVID times. But yeah, thank you being here, mate. Rick, how are you, bud?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, mate. This is we spoke about this for a long time, us three, haven't we? So it's now finally here, and we're ready to get going. And yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Awesome. Well, look, for everyone watching, firstly, a huge thank you. Commented, liked, subscribed already before the first episode has even gone live. Everyone here that's live now, anyone watching YouTube a bit later on tonight, just honestly a huge thank you. Obviously, it'd be pointless doing it without you guys. And look, we're super excited about launching this podcast. The future of it, as Rick and Ben have said, it's been something that's been in the pipeline for quite a while, and everything's aligned. The timelines have aligned, and we're here now for episode 1, first of many. Look, we've already got some super exciting guests lined up as well. You know, the boys have been working super hard behind the scenes to tee stuff up. And not only that, you know, we're looking at doing some quite fun interactive stuff. We've got lots planned, obviously over the summer transfer window and beyond. But everything will be revealed in due course. So we're just absolutely buzzing that you're here. Also, get your questions in throughout the podcast. So we will flash questions up throughout, but we're going to do a little Q&A at the end of it. So any question we'll answer as much as we possibly can, but get them in and we'll answer that at the end. But I think that's enough teasing. I think that's enough waffling. I think we get on to it. And I think there's no better place to start. There's some huge breaking news that has come out today exclusively by Fabrizio Romano with regards to the Scottish left-back, Andy Robertson. Legend of the club, has been linked heavily now with a move abroad to Spain to Atletico Madrid. Something that seems to be moving quite a bit of pace. And something that came a little bit out of the blue, I think. What are your thoughts on seeing that come out today?
Yeah, it's an interesting one with Robbo. For me, it's hard to see him sit on the bench next season, to be fair, and I think he's like that. I think he'll... look, Robbo will go about it in the right way. You see this interview the other day, mate. I kind of felt like it was kind of a going type of interview, what he was saying. I know he didn't give too much away, but, you know, he spoke how good the talks were, and I think the talks were is that he probably found a decent move elsewhere, and obviously that seems to be the case. It is a shock, but look, at the end of the day, if he wants to go, Liverpool can't be standing in his way. He's over the other side of the deal now, and Liverpool are there trying to buy, you know, what they see as one of the best left-backs in Europe. And let's face it, I'm sure you boys are the same. I don't want to see Andy Robbo sulking, miserable on the side of the pitch. He deserves to be playing for me. And, you know, he's been an unbelievable servant. For me, the best left-back I've ever seen anyway at Liverpool. Don't know what you boys think, but he's done everything. So he shouldn't have to just be a part-time player. He's too good to be a part-time player, in my opinion. And I just want nothing but the best from him. And I think he should take the move, personally. He should. That's a great move for him. Still Champions League club. First choice left back. And he could smash that little rat in Spain a few times, can't he, along the way?
Yeah, we'll come on to a certain other Liverpool, ex-Liverpool player that's moved over there. But Rick, I mean, as Ben said, you know, I put a tweet up earlier and it seems to be a bit of a mixed reaction. Robbo's been a phenomenal signing for Liverpool. He's been arguably the best left back in the world for most of his duration at Liverpool. Would you hold him back? Would you keep him for another season? Would you let him go if the money's right? How do you feel about that?
If I want to be spoiled, I'll keep him back. I think if Kerkez learns under him next season and maybe the season after, if we extend the contract, no one better to learn off than Andy Robertson, what he's done at Liverpool. But you can't hold him back, can you, really? For what he's done for the club, how long he's been there, what he's achieved. he's always been respectful to us fans, the club, and like Ben said, it's a massive team that he could potentially go to in Atletico. They've got Champions League. They're one of the top teams in Spain. It would just be hard to see him leave and not get the send off that he deserves at the end of the season that we've seen in previous years with certain players. But listen, who would have seen an £8 million signing from Hull back in the day, being the best left back for a few years? But obviously got the second best assist record for a defender behind Trent. He would have beat that next season if he stayed. But yeah, I wouldn't begrudge him if he left. I mean, send him on his way. All the best. Thank you for everything you've done. Top professional.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. I think,
Matt, what's your thoughts? I'm just putting some comments out while you give your thoughts on it.
Yeah. Listen, like we said, if you're being greedy, if you can have Robbo for another season while Kerkez is bedded in, it's an ideal situation. But I think you've got to look at it from the outside perspective of how players will look at the situation as well as internally, and just being fair. And if he was 28, he had 3 years left on his deal, I wouldn't have the same opinion as being, oh yeah, let him go. He's 31. I think if you're being fair, it's obvious that his level has dipped somewhat. I think asking him to be the first choice again would be a big ask for him. I think if he wants to move, I think if Atletico Madrid stump up the right fee for him and it works for everybody, I think you've got to let him go. I think you can't be greedy with someone at that age that's given you. I mean, he's given us these prime years, hasn't he? He could have been a target for any club in the world when he was in his prime. Robertson, he was phenomenal. So for me, I very begrudgingly would let him get the move. But if I were back over at you, Ben, I mean, what shocked me was actually the club. I could see him going, but I know we'd had conversations. There were talks about, him moving on a free next year to Celtic. Obviously now Kieran Tierney's moved, which we'll talk about a bit later, to Celtic. That may be off the table. But I think a lot of people were anticipating that he was probably winding down. He'd do the year with Liverpool, his contract, and he'd go on a free to maybe a lesser club. I mean, are you surprised that someone like Atletico, and specifically Atletico and Simeone, have shown an interest in Robbo?
Yeah, I'm more surprised that our fullbacks seem to be going to Madrid. But look, I'm sure there was other clubs. He's got too much experience on his CV to not get a top club. I think it's perfect for him. He'll be excited, and they'll love him because the way Simeone is. He loves to tackle and shit, and Robbo will certainly throw a few of them out. I'm made up for him. If that is the move he's going to get, I think that's a great opportunity for him that he can't turn down, in my opinion. And I don't think many Reds. I'm sure. Look, I'm sad if that's going to happen, which looks like it will. And I'd imagine it's further down the line than being made out, because usually the media are always further behind. And as a comment to you, yeah, there you go. Do you know what I mean? Another bit of money in the pocket for that. Such and such. I won't go into details of what I think of. Shouldn't even be saying his name. But yeah, look, it's a good move for him. They're a good club. He's not losing out on worse. Like if he was going to Celtic, for instance, the league's a lot worse. You know what I mean? This is still a decent league. What a stadium to play in as well. That one's a Metropolitano. So I think it's a great move for him. And look, wish him nothing but the best. For me, it's not even about the money. Do you know what I mean? But there was rumours circling around that Tyler wanted Liverpool to kind of break his contract a bit. Don't know if I believe it, but not much surprised me with him.
Yeah. I was going to last point, and then we'll move on to he shall not be named. I think. I mean, he spoke not long ago, Robbo. I know we kind of look at these transfers as being probably a little bit further ahead than perhaps they are portrayed in the media. But he spoke about 4 or 5 weeks ago about a tongue-in-cheek comment about how Salah used the fan base to get his new deal, how vocal we all were, and he kind of made a bit of a jokey comment about helping himself to obviously extend his contract at Liverpool. What do you think's changed over the last couple of weeks that's made him open up? Because it's come out today that obviously he is also keen on making the transfer over. Do you think Liverpool have maybe given him his marching orders? Do you think there's been conversations that Kerkez will be coming in and he is going to sit on the bench? What do you think's changed?
I think that we've seen in the past Liverpool have let players go for free. FSG, they're a different type of brand. They see it as you fulfilled your contract, you can go pretty much like that. They're not in the game for other things like that. But I think he's been told he's not going to get a new deal, and I think he's been told Kerkez is coming in, being number one. So there's a lot of sitting on the bench next season potentially for Robbo if he stayed. And I also think, listen, I think they've asked Robertson, what do you want to do? Out of respect for how long he's been here, what he's done, do you want to see yourself as a bit part player next season, or do you want to go, listen, we're not getting 50, 60 million for him. We know what the deal is. It'll be max 15 mil all in, I think, for him. So I think Liverpool give him the option. Just Edwards and Hughes. Listen, I was critical of Hughes at the start, Ben. Me and you have had plenty of conversations, but we know how good Edwards is, and Edwards is not going to be messed about. He's just going to stick it out there for him. You either stay, be a bit part player, or you go without blessing, go do what you want to do, and you pick the team really.
That's a good way to go as well.
And I think they've given him the platform to go find a team for himself, and I think he's had conversation with different teams, and Atletico have shown the most interest in him, and he shows them. And listen, then go sunny Spain at the back end of his career, enjoy it. You can't complain.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Quick one for you.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you're a big fan of Robbo. How do you think that would have went with the sporting director? Because obviously, in the interview with Sky, he talked about good talks with Liverpool. So what's your thoughts about how Liverpool are handling things at the minute? Because one thing at the minute, I know we're going to go into detail, but they seem like they've got to grips with it again, don't they? The club.
Yeah, like I said, obviously we'll talk about kind of incoming transfers. I know that's what's going to get the juices flowing for everybody a bit later on, and we'll talk more about kind of Richard Hughes and Mike Edwards. This is a win-win situation for Liverpool. I think with this Andy Robertson situation, I think they either get to keep a just top pro and a great player. We're talking, yes, he's dropped, but the level was so high that even his level below that is still a top level. To help bed in a new talent that will be coming in with Kerkez. All they end up turning a little bit of probably what will end up being a profit on him at 31 years old after having his prime years. I mean, for Liverpool, they're probably looking at that and going, well, we're happy to do either. I think they'll be very fair with him. I don't think they'll start trying to price him out of a move. I don't think they'll try and strong arm him into staying. I think they understand where he's at. There's a few figures being bandied about, albeit not official yet. It seemed like they're close to doing a deal. So we'll have to wait and see. But I think Liverpool will be in a really relaxed position with it. But I suppose, talking of Liverpool players, talking of moving to Spain, talking of Madrid, I suppose we better talk about Trent Alexander-Arnold and also Tyler Alexander-Arnold. So for people that aren't aware, obviously Tyler is Trent's agent, or is the director for the agency that he's represented by, that also have Andy Robertson under their banner. See, Trent's presentation was Thursday. He's officially now obviously a Real Madrid player. Rick, did you tune into any of the Madrid Trent content at all on Thursday, or did you hard pass?
I tried to pass it, but I had a few friends who are rival fans send me a couple of videos of it. I mean, listen, fair play to him. He learned Spanish quite quick, didn't he? Was that a couple of weeks in Denny's interview where he said that this has been a long time coming? Then he had to backtrack a little bit and said it was only a couple of weeks ago. Listen, if you could learn Spanish in a couple of weeks, fair play to you, mate, because I might have to take that course up as well. But yeah, we all know it's been in the background since 2023. There's a reason why he signed a 4-year deal when he did his renewal. If I say what I really feel, we won't have a channel after this. But it's tragic. Like the whole setup and the whole press conference was just absolute nonsense, wasn't it? I mean, Romano couldn't get enough clicks out of it. Like the amount of times I see it on my Twitter feed, So, but yeah, like someone said, there is a snake. Like you've left your boyhood club for no money, and we got 10 mil at the end of it for him to go play in this Mickey Mouse Cup in July and June. But yeah, it's disgrace, mate. Disgrace.
Yeah. Ben, I mean, we obviously there were say strong whispers that obviously Tyler had been announcing this move quite early in December 2023. That Trent was subject of interest for Real Madrid and potentially going there. I think this press conference pretty much confirmed that. As Rick said, there was a little bit of a slip of the tongue. His amazing Spanish skills in 2 weeks.
Not bad.
What do you make of it? I mean, from the outside looking in, obviously we all loved Trent. He was a scout, so he had his song. But as time goes on, it looks like maybe it's kind of a good swerve for Liverpool that maybe he is looking to move on.
Trent, sorry, it broke up then. You on about Trent, yeah?
Trent, yeah.
What to say? I could go on all day about this little fella. I think what it looks like to me is it's been a manufactured move for a long time. We'd spoke privately, Martin. Alisson 6 years, was it Virgil 5 years and him 4? Mate, as a Liverpool, born and bred lads, to play for that club, mate, I'd want a fucking lot longer than that, than 4 years. I wouldn't even want to know when the end of the contract is. I'd rather pay them to play. Do you know what I mean? He's a lucky boy in my eyes. Very, very frustrating for me how he's gone about it. Obviously, people are dead little things around the city, and Paddy Pimblett was talking about it, where he was saying he'd heard about him speaking Spanish for 18 months. Well, there you go. I personally don't think. Look, you've seen interviews with him with regards to talking about Barcelona. I don't think it was manufactured just for Real Madrid. I think he'd have took either of them two teams if they came to the table. Obviously, it was Real Madrid that pursued it, and obviously his little friend is already at the club, isn't he, Mr. Bellingham? I think, look, as soon as he came on the scene, I could start seeing the demeanour of Trent change. He bounces around in vests and dungarees. I'm sure people want to do that as well. You don't find people from West Derby bouncing around looking like that, mate.
Do you not think you knew he was leaving when he was at the Monaco Grand Prix and then Prada dungarees?
They were white, weren't they?
Fuck me. Well, it was before, because he wouldn't have planned to wear that if he was staying, would he? Do you know what I mean? I'd be wearing that around West Derby Village. But anyway, the biggest disappointment for me, though, was just how it all unfolded to the end. And he's just so fake for me. Look at the state of his performance against Man United. The interviews. With regards to talking about Ballon d'Or, how was he thinking he's going to win that? I couldn't believe that. And the fact the girl, I can't think of the name. Can't think of the girl who done the interview. But anyway, she was on the Anfield Wrap at one point. But she was in shock. Supports Liverpool herself, do you know what I mean? And the fact that he disregarded captain in Liverpool, winning the Champions League again with Liverpool, he's just, the egos took charge of him. And Harriet, that's the one I could see the comments in there. Harriet Bryant, that's correct. Cheers for that. Yeah, look, it is what it is. But at the end of the day, I was very disappointed with Jurgen Klopp as well. That's something that fucked me right off. And I'm sure some people will agree or disagree. It is what it is. Each to their own. But don't ever tell Liverpool fans who pay money to go and watch the team every week how they should react to him. Because I'm not being funny. I love Jurgen. I've got tattoos of his quotes and shit. But at the end of the day, fucking he should have took some blame as well, because he should never have announced he was going without wrapping Trent up. And look, you could say different things with regards to the Salah and the Van Dijk thing, but at the end of the day, Klopp should have made sure he was staying at the club. He was his golden child. We talked about he gave him the vice captaincy, and I'm not being funny. He's no fucking vice captain for Liverpool. Because what would have happened last year, boys? I know this is negative, and we'll go into the good stuff, but at the end of the day, your vice captain, what would have happened if Van Dijk got injured last year? Would he have just fucking hid away and, out the way, not doing interviews and stuff? It was just poor how it went about it. And to be honest, the ego took over. I'm glad it's out of the club now, because look at the shit that it's caused towards the end. It nearly took the spin off the title win. And to be honest, the more I look at it, it looks like a fella that wasn't even asked about the title win, because it would have been easier for him to go if there was no celebrations. And, people can agree and disagree, but that's how I feel towards it. We wanted the little backdoor job. Fortunately, came right on top of him. And to be honest, people, were booing him and everything, stuff like that. I do agree with the boo. I was fucked right off with Trent, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. The true fans let it know what they felt like at the Spurs game and Arsenal game, and it is what it is. To be honest, Klopp went in there and smoothed it over for him, in my opinion. I don't know if you agree, Martin. I want the same thing to you. What do you think? But he got out lucky in the end, Trent, because it could have been a lot worse. And God help him if he returns to Liverpool with Real Madrid, because I think we're going to get them sooner or later.
Yeah, I think somehow it's even between the Jurgen Klopp comments the last game and now his exit's aged incredibly bad. As Liverpool fans, you feel like you've been banging your head against a brick wall, because every person on social media, in the media, seems to have an opinion on how Liverpool fans should feel about Trent, and you're having people telling us that we should be excited that he's going. And the thing that confuses me is, listen, I'm of the opinion, I can only speak for myself, that any player that wants to try a new challenge, as long as you've given your best for the club and you've acted professionally, if you want to move on and you want to try something new, whether you're a Scouser, you're from Holland, you're from Brazil, as long as you do it professionally, you're entitled to do that. We all do it in our line of work. We don't stay in the same place. The reason that Liverpool fans are so upset, and what the media are just either purposefully or just missing the point, is that this was a heavily manufactured move. This is his boyhood club. This is the club he supports. And he has, come out to the fan base at the beginning of the season just gone and said, out of respect, or like all of my other contracts, I'm going to negotiate this behind closed doors, giving Liverpool fans, the club, potential hope that he's going to sign the contract, where it's abundantly clear now that he was never going to sign that. And that's that's why Liverpool fans are so bothered by it. And I think the media and rival fans and rival media just need to shut up, because I personally don't even care what happens at other football clubs, let alone giving an opinion of how they should behave. But it was, he will know deep down how Liverpool fans feel about him now. He may have got away with that last game because you said Jurgen smoothed it over for him, but he will know that he's burnt his bridges at Liverpool with the fan base and the club. But I would say, I don't want to give him too much time, because he's been a drain since the penultimate game of the season. This situation with Trent, so I don't want to give him much more airtime. But another former employee of Liverpool that has upset a portion of the fan base. Most, I don't think, really care about this, to be honest. But I think it's worth a mention that obviously Pep Lijnders has now officially joined Pep Guardiola and the Manchester City backroom staff. Polarizing figure, I think, Pep Lijnders, even when he was still at Liverpool, I think it's fair to say. Rick, what did you think when this initially the news broke, and then when it became official? What were your thought process on it?
I went too fast because I didn't really rate him anyway. There was shouts for him to be the next Liverpool manager after Klopp, which were laughable. Hopefully he brings another book out, releasing another load of nonsense. Failed manager, tried it twice now, and he got sacked from the Dutch team, and then he went to Salzburg, who, let's be honest, are second favourites to win that league every year. They've got a bigger budget than more than 3/4 of the league. Took Bobby Clark there for 10 mil, took Pochettino on loan there. Absolutely got destroyed there. I think he was sitting sixth when they let him go. It's funny they sacked him before Klopp took over as the CEO of Red Bull, because he couldn't save his mate. And what I found funny about him going to City was the fact that he asked for Jurgen Klopp's blessing, which is pointless because Klopp's nothing to do with Liverpool Football Club no more. And the rumours, he phoned Arne Slot to let him know that he was going to Man City. Mate, Arne Slot probably answered the phone and said, "Who are you?" Out of respect to Liverpool and Slot, that he's going to Man City. He's gone to Man City. There was a video clip of him today. I don't think the Man City boys have seen someone on the actual training field with them trying to coach them. All you hear is press, press, press. If he thinks he's getting Man City's team to press, press, press next season, he's in for a rude awakening.
Turkey as well.
Yeah. Foden don't run. Cherky don't run. Haaland won't run around for him. And he's only on a year deal. So it's quite telling maybe for Pep. Is Pep going after a year? But yeah, mate, when I see the meltdown on Twitter from Liverpool fans, and I mean, really? He weren't that good as a manager, so I'm not too fussed if he's gone City, to be fair.
Yeah. Yeah, Ben, like I said, he was a polarising figure when he was at Liverpool. There were suggestions during the kind of back end of Klopp's reign that maybe he was taking a bit more of a front and centre approach with the Liverpool team. What did you think of it when it broke? Quite unusual, wasn't it, that he's gone on a year and that he's, linked up with Guardiola. What do you think his thought process is behind joining Manchester City? Do you think he's maybe tried it as a manager? He feels he needs a little bit more, shadowing. What do you think his motivation is to go to City would be?
Oh, look, the negative side for me to talk about it would be to slag him off and say, he said he weren't going to work for anyone other than Klopp. But at the end of the day, I think, if any coach has got the opportunity to work with Guardiola, he'd be daft to turn it down, I think, personally, because of the knowledge he's got. He's an unbelievable man. He's one of the greatest of all time, if not, you know what I mean? So, in many people's eyes. I think why he's took it, in my opinion, is I think because he's had such a terrible time being a manager to reset up for him. Go in with Guardiola, see if they win something. Probably gets him back out in the open again, doesn't it? To say, well, I've just come off the back working with Guardiola. We've just won this, this, and this. If they did, it's a lot better than looking on his CV now that he was absolutely shite at Salzburg, isn't it?
Yeah. I think some people are just better. Yeah, I think some people are just better suited to being number twos than managers. I think, he's the one thing he was praised for is he was basically like a liaison officer at Liverpool. He was very good with the players. He had great relationships. He was obviously multilingual, could speak many different languages, and obviously he's got very good tactical acumen about him. But it's just obviously something that's just not quite working for him when he has to be the guy. But listen, I don't harbour any ill will towards him for going to Manchester City. He's got a career to look after. He's obviously had a bit of a tough time. He probably needs a reset. And like you said, Ben, all rivalry aside, Guardiola is Guardiola, right? So if you have the opportunity
you can't tear it down. If that's on his CV to say with the managers who's worked with Klopp and Guardiola, there you go.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll move on to. So firstly, guys, if you can hit like and subscribe, obviously just helps get the name out there. It helps us a lot. So if you wouldn't mind, then keep getting the questions in. We will get around to them at the end. We're going to do a little Q&A at the end. So please do, even if it doesn't pop up on the screen now, we will be going through questions up at the end. So it can be transfer related. It can be related to the club, the season, anything you want. Pop it in, then we'll get round to it. Now, moving from Lijnders to our own income, and obviously sad to see that we obviously had one of the backroom staff go. With Big Johnny Heitinger came in, won a league title, and then buggered off. So fair play to him. He's at Ajax now. But obviously we have welcomed in, I don't think it's official as of yet, but it looks very likely that Giovanni van Bronckhorst will be joining Arne Slot's coaching team. He was a great player in his own right, phenomenal player. Obviously keeping that Dutch connection up there as well. It's had quite a good managerial career. Obviously he won with Rangers, with Feyenoord. Very good calibre. Rick, that's quite an impressive pull to get somebody that's got a pretty good first team manager career to come in as a number two, right?
Yeah, first of all, it's hard to get a manager to take a down step to be someone's number two. Someone who's been successful like Van Bronckhorst. You've done well with Feyenoord, Rangers, and I think it's a top appointment because if you've got Kerkez, who's 22, you've got Frimpong, who's 21, 22. You've got Frimpong, who's 23, 24. To have someone who was a very good fullback in their own right in Van Bronckhorst, had a good career at Arsenal, Barcelona, to learn off of someone like that at that age of our two fullbacks, our Bradley as well. It'll be top. If you look at Johnny Heitinger, he helped out with some of the defensive players in Kwanzaa, Nalo as well in the under-21s. So to have someone like that come in with the experience, it's only a plus. Everyone thought it was doom and gloom when Heitinger was going to go. He probably pissed off the blue side of Merseyside a lot as well. When he won the Prem, being the next player at Everton, it's the first trophy he's actually won. Basically top for top, isn't it? Really, you haven't took a back step in an appointment. So it's Dutch as well. We've got Slot, I'm not even going to try and pronounce Slot's number 2's name like the other. So I'm not even going to pronounce it. I'll butcher it, but he's very good as well. We know Slot tried last summer to bring someone else in from final, but the work permit issues were stopping that. So we've got a very, very good backroom staff, and to do it in season 1 when the Premier League is certainly going to go up from there with what we've got.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Ben, you look at his CV. So just looking at it here, he obviously over 100 career appearances for Feyenoord. He had over 70 for Rangers. He had a brief stint at Arsenal. He had over 100 appearances for Barcelona in mid-2000s, and then had another 80 appearances for Feyenoord. And then obviously progressed into a manager in 2015 where he had 4 years with Feyenoord. He had a year with Changzhou over in China, then a year with Rangers, and then Besiktas in 2024. What do you think he's going to bring to that Liverpool backroom staff, to the players, obviously to the actual tactical side of things? What do you think we're going to see from Van Bronckhorst?
The vast amount of knowledge from being a top player himself to, look, one thing he's got is the experience to play for big clubs as well. You know what I mean? Barcelona, Holland, Arsenal as well. Do you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, it's the thing to the younger players who are coming into the squad as well. Do you know what I mean? Rich just mentioned the likes of Kerkez and stuff. What a person to be around. Do you know what I mean? Someone that's done it in the left back position. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's really a smart move for Liverpool. It also shows the pull of Liverpool and the manager. This is a fella who wanted to be a manager. Liverpool have ended up bringing him in as an assistant coach. Do you know what I mean? He's the third one down. So it's a big thing for Liverpool. I think it's a really smart appointment. Do you know what I mean? So, as I say, look, people don't really know to the extent of how much these people have an impact on it. But look at the impact that Johnny Eitinga did. And if Slot feels Van Bronckhorst is the one, obviously it won't just be Slot. There'll be a collective of them. Slot will have picked the right one. But I mean, look, at the end of the day, Liverpool are smart and shrewd with their appointments, aren't they? You know what I mean? They don't shy away. When they've got it right, it's been spot on. So I don't expect it to go any other way. I think this will be a top appointment for the club. And as I say, look, you can say the cancers can start at the top of the club, and so could success. You know what I mean? When it filters all the way down, they're obviously getting it all right within. So Slot's happy, I'm happy. That's how I can look at it, to be honest.
Yeah, no, absolutely agree. I'd absolutely agree. I think now is probably a good time to obviously have a chat a little bit more of the backroom staff side of things, but maybe the sporting director. So we're gonna transition into the transfers very shortly, which I know everybody is going to be wanting to talk about. We do as well. But let's get the business side of things in. So obviously Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes rejoined and joined respectively Liverpool last year. Richard Hughes specifically came under quite a bit of fire last summer at the back end. Obviously only bringing in Federico Chiesa. Obviously no other incomings for Liverpool. Then we had obviously the ongoing contract sagas of Virgil van Dijk and Mohamed Salah. Fast forward a year, Van Dijk signed up 2 years. Mohamed Salah signed up 2 years. Transfers are looking pretty rosy. Ben, do you think that criticism last year for Edwards and Hughes was warranted? Do you think it was a bit premature? What did you think, and how do you think he's done so far this summer?
I think he's done very well since he's come in. Look, at the end of the day, I get it. People just don't have patience, do they? They expect it all instant. In my opinion, I was kind of saying to a few around me, Rick, I think we'd spoke about it. Marty had spoken, a few of my mates who were in the chats as well, Mark, Martin, everyone else. Sometimes things just can't happen instant. Football is dead slow paced and how they go about it. People think like three weeks was long for the weird stuff, which we'll go into, but ultimately in football, that's nothing. I think Richard Hughes done a seriously good job. Let's make no mistake about it. He walked into a shitstorm. Let's be real about it. The first thing on his desk is you've got to sort the 3 big players out, and you've got to manage it to a point. So he's literally building a sandcastle from the start. You know what I mean? Let's face it, right? He took a load of shit, but people aren't giving him credit for picking Arne Slot. Not many people would have known who Arne Slot was from the beginning. Let's make no mistake about it. The fella's just walked in and fucking won the title straight away with ease. 4 cards of honours. It could be fucking 8 by next season. Do you know what I mean? The way we're going, but I think he's done really well. You've got to remember, I don't think people realise how much of a daunting task it is that, he's getting told, Richard, Salah, Van Dijk and Trent, they're your dealing straight away. Get on with it. That's tough, that. And he's got that. He had that to deal with. He had the manager situation with all his staff. Then the player situation. The worst thing that happened for Richard Hughes was that Zubimendi taking the piss out of Liverpool. I know we all wanted him, but we were unlucky with that. Do you know what I mean? So he obviously got the keys in, but since then, there's only been good things coming out of the club. Look, you could tell, because as I've just said, if there's a problem at the club like Man United, the cancer filters down. Do you know what I mean? As bad as it is to say it like that, but ultimately the success starts filtering down, and you could see better things constantly happen at Liverpool. The manager spoke highly of him. Do you know? And I know some people can say, well, obviously a new manager's going to say that, but I don't think Arne Slot's the type of fella to blow smoke up someone's ass for nothing. Do you know what I mean? He does not strike me as that. You heard interviews with Salah say he's very down the middle, he's black and white, transparent, and I agree with that. If he's telling you good things, you better believe it. Do you know what I mean? And look, we'll go into the names, etc. very soon, but I can't speak highly enough at the minute, certainly with Michael Edwards. Whatever they do, they've steered the ship in the right way again, because it was looking a mess. Do you know what I mean? It was looking a mess behind the scenes a bit, And some of the transfer situation of the last couple of years was poor because we didn't have, we had the fella from Ibiza in. Do you know what I mean? There you go. And at the end of the day, that's not how you run a football club like Liverpool. Certainly not the way FSG's model has been over the years. They've needed someone who's stable. And I think there was a reason why Michael Edwards wanted him in, because he said he was the best in the business. And you're starting to see it now. It's the first time Liverpool started shopping on the top table, and I believe it's certainly because of them two fellas. They ain't come here to fuck about, have they?
No, absolutely not. The buyout clause king, George's, whatever his surname was.
Party King George.
Yeah, pay and release clauses from his holiday bed in Ibiza. But Ben just made a point there that I wanted to bring up with you. The sporting directors a lot of the time are judged on transfers. We know transfers are just the be-all and end-all that we talk about. We're going to discuss it shortly on the pod. But do you think that Edwards and Richard Hughes and all involved really behind the scenes, do you think they've been given enough credit and acknowledgement for the appointment of Arne Slot? I mean, when you think back to last January, February time, when obviously the Jurgen Klopp news broke, obviously Xabi Alonso was by far and away the front runner with the bookies, with the fans. We were all kind of saying, well, it's going to be him. It has to be him. That didn't happen. And then it was obviously Ruben Amorim, which now looks like a very lucky escape. And they went with this fella that not many people had heard of, final manager Arne Slot. They'd briefly been linked with Tottenham the season before. He's come in. He's taken the Premier League by storm. He's won the league in his first go with making one signing that hasn't played. So back to my question. Do you think that they've been given enough credit for finding Arne Slot to replace Jurgen Klopp?
No. If you watch Sky Sports when they have like different YouTubers on the different YouTube videos on here, that it was Arne Slot who it was Liverpool going to fall off a cliff, finish 7th, 8th. He'll be sacked by Christmas. And for it to come out that he was first choice, because Slot's even said himself, he got the phone call for Richard Hughes. Richard Hughes flew to Holland to his house. You don't do that if it's not your first choice. This whole talk about Alonso being number one choice was a fan thing. It wasn't a club thing. Alonso, if you look at the nerds with the data that they go off for transfers and other stuff like that, Alonso would have been number one purely because of formation. Same as Amorim. Apparently there was a report come out, if Amorim took over at Liverpool, it would have been estimated 400 million. It would have needed to cost to replace the whole squad to fit Amorim's style of play, which would have been probably the same for Alonso because he plays a free back. So it made more sense for someone to come in that's playing the same formation as what we've got the players for. Obviously, it's a little bit different to how Klopp played it. It's not gung-ho like Klopp. It's more controlled. And you even see when we're struggling in games, say you went 1-0 down at home to Fulham, we see the formation change. I know we went down to 10 men in the game, but the formation changed, the personnel in different areas. I mean, for me, Slot's very tactical. He knows how to change a game when it needs to be. So I bet they're not asking who Arne Slot is now, are they? After winning the Premier League in his first season, absolutely wiped the floor with with everyone. I don't really count the Fulham game as a loss because it was more or less done at that time. Forest was the only one this season where you could see it wind slot up. Every press conference he was dropping Nottingham Forest's name.
You're fucking obsessed with him, man.
I mean, apparently there's rumours of him getting a new contract now, better terms, longer contract. I mean, I'm all here for it. I mean, we could dominate English football for years to come under Slot. And like you said, Richard Hughes, Ben, you know my at the start when he come in, I was all over him. But
you're seeing the fruits of his labour now, aren't you?
If anyone's owed an apology from me, it's Richard Hughes. I mean, he's done sensational getting Salah, Van Dijk tied down to new deals. Obviously, Trent was never going to happen, but he's got them two down to finish their careers at the club. He's got slotting through the door. The Zubimendi one was a bit of a... You even see now he's messing Arsenal around, apparently, but he beat City, Real Madrid, and Bayern Munich, like, to Wirtz. To get Wirtz out of Germany deserves credit in itself because he's seen as the German golden child who was Bayern Munich. I think the difference between the new setup with Hughes and Richard Hughes and Michael Edwards, I think they're a double team act. You can't take away how important Michael Edwards is to Liverpool Football Club. I know he don't work directly for Liverpool no more. It's more of an FSG CEO football role, but to have him back in the club, helping with transfers and stuff like that, it's just like we get anyone we want under these two. And I don't know if it was FSG didn't really trust money with Klopp and George. I'm not even going to pronounce his last name off his laptop in Ibiza. I don't know if they trusted them with the money that they have. Obviously, we've done well in the Premier League this year. The Champions League, we've got decent money for revenue. You've also got guaranteed revenue next season from the Champions League already. There's bigger TV deals, so there's more money to spend. And who better to have than these two headhunting players to bring into this team that are already dominated? And I know people that are this player, that are going to go out the door. You see it, Slot's Feyenoord. He won the league there. 8 players went that following summer out the door. He stripped the whole team that won the league. So it's very exciting times.
That is the comment.
Yeah. It's not even about Man United are now one up on the titles or when they're level with them. We've got more European trophies. We are number one biggest club in this country. Any player would want to come to this club. If you're a striker as well, looking at this Liverpool team, the players that are be behind him, fucking hell, man. Like you said, I see people in comments, no disrespect, you can put Ricky Lambert up front, being fed in by Salah and Wirtz and grabbing Birch McAllister, Szoboszlai. It's a fucking dream to play for us at the minute, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they've been described. Michael Edwards was described best in class by one of the journos, and I highly recommend if people haven't seen it to watch Ian Graham's interviews. He's done a few of them now. He's got a book out, and it is phenomenal to get the insight behind it, to hear how Edwards looked at the data because obviously he was at Spurs. He looked at the data they were trying to obtain and talking about how useless it was when actually trying to identify targets. He completely changed and manipulated what data he wanted to look at. And you can see, why they are so successful. Just a really intelligent team, a team that worked well, a collaborative effort. They're just from the best in class. They're phenomenal. I think Liverpool will do everything they can to keep hold of this team for as long as possible. I think, unfortunately, he was underutilized in perhaps the last couple of years under Klopp, for whatever reason that may be. I think I speak for everyone when I say, Al Ali, fuck off. You're not having Edwards, so go away. So we will transition over. So a big part of what obviously Edwards and Hughes will be doing, transfers. It's been a pretty bloody good start to the window so far for Liverpool, and we'll come on to the incomers in a moment. But kind of doubling back to the first point, Andy Robertson going, outgoings are going to be just as important and I think big and probably shocking as the incomers that we're going to see at Liverpool this year. So I think Andy Robertson today was a sign of that. Ben, I think, we're going to have the obvious names that we are pretty certain are going to go. Who do you think the likely transfers are going to be outgoing for Liverpool? But could you give me a name of someone outside of Robertson that you think could be a bit of a shock leaver?
A shock player. If I was going to say shock, because no one's talking about it, probably the shock would be Enzo, wouldn't it? Because no one wants him to go.
Yeah, he's not allowed to go.
Yeah, just keep him there for fucking eternity, mate. Look, it's hard to see what shocks is. There's question marks over them. If you want my opinion on who I think is going to go, they will all be in agreement. The likes of Nunes. Big question mark is Diaz. That's the big question mark for me. Whether or not he's going to go. I think the press release recent was kind of pay up or fuck off, basically. That's how I read it.
Do you not think they're all for sale? Bar Salah, Van Dijk, and Ali. If the price is right.
I think that in my opinion, do you know what you are right in many ways. I think if someone offered 60 million for Gakpo, I think they'd consider. Because I think they are like that. I don't think they're scared about redoing it again. That's how I look at with Edwards and Hughes. I don't think they're scared to change things. Let's be honest. I really like Gakpo, for instance, but I think a lot of people would. If you're naming the 11 of how you want to look at Liverpool, is he starting over Diaz, for instance, on the 11th? Probably not. Do you know what I mean? So if people are saying to sell Diaz, are people then going to put Gakpo in? I don't know. It's strange. That could be I don't think he will, but he'd be a shock. But I don't like what you've just said there, Rick. Is kind of true in many ways. I don't think they'd be scared to sell a couple of players that they believe they'll probably be able to replace it quite quick. I think they'd be able to find a left winger if they really went out of the way.
Do you think Konate goes this summer?
Oh
no.
If he's not signed by the first week of July, I could think Liverpool will start getting a bit fucking pissed off with them. I think they'd be right to be pissed off. Do you not reckon that?
Yeah, I do. I think with Konate, I think you've got with every player, you've got to look at what their target market would look like that would purchase them. With Konate, two clubs come to mind for me: Real Madrid, Paris Saint-Germain. Now, obviously, Paris Saint-Germain are in the market with somebody. Real Madrid have just obviously got Huijsen, so Housen, however you say his name. So whether or not they're looking at another one, I mean, they're going to have Housen, and then Militao, Alaba, Rudiger. I would say they're probably set for this summer. So then you're looking at Paris Saint-Germain, who seem to be quite keen on the lad from Bournemouth. So obviously, Konate doesn't seem to be their first choice. So for me, I think they'll come to an agreement based on the fact that Liverpool are probably looking at the centre-back market and thinking, not 100% sure there's many that if any, that you call an upgrade. I think Konate will look at the market and go, not sure I'm going to get better than Liverpool. And I do think they'll come to an arrangement. But I think the one you have to be careful of is him sneaking out for free. They can't do that, even if
that's what I mean. The crunch time is coming with Konate. He's got to make his decision. I'm open, and I think it will be to sign a new deal. But obviously, the question that you asked me is shock signings. Look, I just mentioned two names there that would be a shock, but because you've seen the name linked out there, haven't you, with Bayern Munich being Gakpo. If they've just been turned down from Nico Williams, could you see them come back to the table? I don't know. It's just a name that would shock me. Because let's be honest, a lot of the names that we know are going. Quansel is probably going to go. Elliott's going to go. Tsimikas, I think, will go. He should go. Do you know what I mean? Looks like he's going to kip fucking 20. But he hasn't had the kip, should I say. His eyes have got fucking bags under them. But Liverpool, look, they've got to be careful how they go about it, boys, because they can't do too much where because there's already a lot going on at the club, do you know what I mean? Mainly, they've got to look at getting the likes of Nunes and shit out the door, which I do believe they will. What about you? Do you think Nunes? Where do you see Nunes going, boys?
I think I can't look past Saudi. I think I think he seems to have his. I think he wants to go to Atletico Madrid, but I don't think they've got the money. Then you've got Napoli. I mean, that's obviously I think there's a deal to be done there, but I'll mention that shortly. And outside of that, you're looking at Saudi. I mean, I think Liverpool have got a figure that they want. I just don't think Italian and Spanish clubs outside of Real Madrid and Barcelona are really renowned for offering huge amounts up front for transfer fees. I could see them coming in with some, shithead loan to buy kind of thing, which I just don't think Liverpool will go for. So I think Saudi. I think the same with Luis Diaz. But Rick, I think, it's been widely reported now. Liverpool are on the brink of doing that first bit of business. They've got, we'll talk about the 3 players in a moment. And then it's going to be a case of trimming the squad down, probably topping the coffers back up and then go into market. If you were, if it was your job, you were in charge of the strategy now moving forward with who's on the brink of coming in, who's going out, how would you now shape the squad? Who are you getting out? And then who are you looking to, what positions are you looking to strengthen?
So obviously Robbo's going to go, but I wouldn't like him to go, but he'll go. I'd like to see Costas go. I think Kwanzaa goes. I think the money would be too good to turn down, but I'd like a buyback clause in that deal for later on, or a sell-on. I think Joe Gomez goes. That'd be the defence. I don't think Nunes goes. I don't think. The only reason why I say that, he goes if the Saudi's coming from him. The Saudi's coming from him, he goes. No European club is going to get near Liverpool's valuation for him. They're going to want 50, 60 mil minimum, because they're not going to want to take a massive loss on him. So I don't think he goes, because who's got the money? Unless you do a deal with Napoli for Osimhen, he ain't going nowhere. Atletico won't touch him because they've got Alvarez. Like I said, it will cost 60 mil plus to get Nunes out of Liverpool. It'll only be Saudis. I think Chiesa goes. I don't think Diaz goes. I think Liverpool want to keep him, and if Liverpool don't get a ridiculous offer, they'll just let him go for free when he steals up.
Too much talk about Diaz though, Rick, to stay at the club.
There is
that he's not going to go.
There is, but like
you're talking, you're enticing someone to come, aren't
you? Yeah. Like Mark said, Edwards and Hughes are not going to be bullied by these teams for their players. So Diaz will go if the 75 million offer comes in euros or whatever you want to call it. I think majority of the outgoings are defensive players. I don't think Chiesa will probably be the only attacker. Jota, you ain't going to be able to shift on because his wages will be too high. He's injury prone. He probably ain't the worst player to have around the club as a backup option to come off the bench here and there. But yeah, I just think it's defensive players that will be going out the door more than anyone else.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're coming into quite an interesting part now. I think Liverpool obviously had their key targets that they were going to get in. Financially, had the money. They wanted to just move on it. I think Liverpool have got a few players in. Luis Diaz.
Elliot will go as well. Someone in the chat.
Yeah. I think, well, Elliot, Darwin Núñez, Luis Diaz, Jarell Kwanzaa, probably not Robbo and Tsimikas, but those 4 there, those positions, I think there are a lot of moving parts in the market for those positions. You're looking now, Nico Williams. There's mentions about Bradley Barcola from Paris Saint-Germain. You're talking with regards to, obviously, Mbeumo in the Premier League is looking at going. I think Liverpool will be using this opportunity to look at the type of money that people are offering. I think if you look at Spurs potentially offering 70 million from Mbeumo, I think Liverpool will look at Diaz as being worth all of that.
And rightly so, Matt.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I think what business other clubs are doing are going to really shape what Liverpool do. I suppose you're kind of keen to ask you, really, Ben. I know, obviously, we're keen to know what Liverpool are doing, but looking at some of the other deals that are happening around the world at the moment. So Manchester City have been the most active, haven't they? Obviously, got Reinders from AC Milan, Ryan Cherky, which has obviously been a topic of discussion around Liverpool at one point. And then they've also got in Ryan Aït-Nouri from Wolves. Looking from a challenging perspective, what do you think about those 3 deals for City, and what knock-on effect do you think that could have for the market as well?
They've done it for the Club World Cup, haven't they? I think all 3 are good players. Just don't know if they're great players for them. I don't know why they bought a left back myself, because he likes that centre back playing out there with Gvardiol playing that role. Look, at the end of the day, I look with Reinders and Cherky, I think they've bought them 2 on the back of losing to Florian Wirtz. Simple as that. And that's kind of how they're going up to replace De Bruyne, isn't it? That's what Wirtz was going to come into. The business is good, but it's not as good as ours. And ultimately, I think that City's, we've had this talk, we've got group chats, haven't we, boys, and stuff like that. And I think City signings over the year, I'm not talking just in particular these ones. I think the signings have been way off it. They're not as great as they have been over the years under Guardiola. It remains to be seen how it's going to do. Look, for instance, Cherky, I think he's got some serious techers on him. But is he a Guardiola player? I don't know, because he's going to be asked to run round. And look, obviously he can run, but he's not the most energetic. Do you know what I mean? So he's more suited to a side when they're at home, pinning them in non-stop, where he's just going to sit there on the edge of the box, constantly firing the ball into Ireland. But if you're going to go and play, for instance, City against Liverpool, that's where he's going to come unstuck with Liverpool. Are really going to run him ragged. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know. It's look, I've said this to you, Marty, the last day or so. I feel like Pep's hung around just to help them rebuild the squad, because ultimately they're not probably signing many players if he's gone, are they? And I think he is going to go soon. Similar to the way Klopp did it. He hung around, didn't he, to basically sort that midfield out, and then he goes in a few months later. So I can see that being the same case with Guardiola and City. But it is good business, much better than some of the other rivals, I think. If I was Arsenal, I'd be very worried, for instance.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, yeah, the market outside of City, Liverpool has been relatively quiet. I mean, the club doing the early business for the Club World Cup, and then I think they'll probably let it settle and see how it looks after that, because I think there'll be people moving after that. There'll be stocking, hoarding players to play that competition. But Rick, I think probably the only really other big deal outside of these ones that has gone through officially is obviously Matthias Cunha to Manchester United. They've obviously they're linked with Mbeumo, but that seems to be a bit up in the air with Thomas Frank going to Spurs. I mean, he was someone that was linked briefly with Liverpool, with Arsenal. I mean, a good signing for United, but maybe not quite what they're looking for. What do you think about Cunha?
Yeah, I mean, there's question marks around his attitude. Been sent off a few times. Yeah, that is it. But the Man United not realised they can't defend. So I know they. So I know they don't score goals, and they're going to get Mbeumo and Cunha in. But you've got two Tesco fridges at centre half in De Ligt and Maguire. I mean, he is the Dutch Maguire. So you put in that, you've still got them at centre half. He's so bad, Maguire. They turned him into a striker at the back end of last season. He was scoring headed goals from in competitions.
Whipping balls from
he's shy.
You've got him. You've got one of the worst goalkeepers I've ever seen in Premier League in an armour. Yes, I for a team that's supposed to be broke by sacking all the tea ladies, the canteen staff, the fucking administration staff, to then go and whack 200 million on three attacking players in the Mbeumo, Cunha, and who's the other geezer they're linked with? They're looking at Ekitike as well.
Jokeres has been another one.
That's what I mean. 200 million attacking, but you've got no money. You're pleading poverty in your transfer market, trying to negotiate, but you've just whacked all your budget on three strikers.
Yeah,
that's got to be the worst rug club in England.
They thought they turned the corner, didn't they? When they got in the three people, like the CEO from Man City, they nicked. He's turned out to be fucking awful. Yeah, they took the guy from Southampton. Is it Jason Wilcox?
Yeah.
There was rumours of them paying 25 million for the guy from Newcastle, who I don't know how much they ended up paying him. Lasted about 6 weeks. I mean, it's the worst. They've got to be the worst.
He probably got sacked because he sussed how shit that club was.
He didn't want Amorim, did he? He wanted Gareth Southgate, but
I think that Amorim situation just sums up the difference between where Liverpool are and where Manchester United are. Listen, I don't know enough about Amorim to tell you if he's a good coach or not. I don't know, but Manchester United's squad is not set up for a back five. It's not even close to being set up for a back five, as is Liverpool's. Liverpool went around Amorim because, as you said, Rick, they looked at the cost it would have cost them to build a team for him, and it just didn't make sense. So that it was a non-starter. It's like Manchester United read the Twitter pages and go, "Oh, that Amorim's the kid of the month. Let's go and get him." You know, the same they did with Ten Hag. You know, it was almost bullied into it by the fan base. It's just peculiar.
Question to you both, right? So Amorim was apparently looked at by Man United after they won the FA Cup with Ten Hag. Chose not to do it because of the cost it will cost to change that squad around to make his formation. The style of play that he plays and the data stuff didn't match what Man United were looking for. 6 months later, they hire him.
Yeah, because they want to appease the fans. It's the same reason they're just buying attackers, because that's what gets people excited. And speaking of attack, you've got Man United that are signing attackers when they really need defenders. And now you've got Arsenal, who are desperate for a number 9. And then kind of the only link really seems to be our old friend Marty Zubamendi.
You've got fetish for DMs, Arteta.
Yeah, very, very peculiar. Obviously, Zubamendi, he's still... I think from what David Ornstein said, albeit the rumours aside, it looks like that he's a done deal. The contracts have been done and he's expected to turn up for pre-season. But again, Ben, just a bit, albeit great for us from the outside looking in, but again, another top club where they're just a bit bemused by their incomings or lack of.
Strange club, Arsenal, mate. Honest to God. Crying out for a number 9. What do they do? Sign a fucking goalkeeper. Do you know what I mean? It makes no sense. Like, obviously, we've had good chats on it. Like, obviously, I want to get your thoughts on what you think their plan is. But in my opinion, like, I look at them two signings, Zubamendi and Šeško, they don't move the needle for me. Because I compare it towards Liverpool. I think Liverpool can now take a risk on a younger striker if they had to. I'm not saying it'll happen. I'm just saying if they had to, because our marquee signing is the big dog in the number 10, and we've got quality we've added in all over, which we're about to complete. I think the pressure will be on Arsenal so bad for that kid down the middle, because realistically, I personally think Arsenal, they need someone with a bit of a attitude, bit of fucking snide about him, who knows he's got a bit of arrogance. Awesome. I know he's got this reputation. No one really knows if he's a prick or not. But I think he would be the better fit for him, because I think he could take it on his shoulders. Because let's be honest, it's hard to explain, but I think Arsenal are so far away from Liverpool at the minute that the only way to catch up to Liverpool and City at the minute is by signing Isak, and that's not going to happen for them. Do you know what I mean? I think if you're a top forward, for instance, looking at Arsenal, you're a bit like, I don't know whether I want to take that risk, because there's no guarantee with them. Do you know what I mean? And Mark, we had in particular Zubamendi, because he was linked with Liverpool and nearly looked like it was going to happen. What's your take on him? Because there's something not right with him.
No. He's turned Arsenal down before, if reports are to be believed. Obviously, us, Bayern Munich, I think one of the big Spanish teams. With Zubamendi, I think with him, I think he's got it in the back of his head that he wants to move to a bigger club. But I think he's one of these very few players where, winning trophies actually isn't his motivation. I think he would much rather move to Arsenal than to Manchester City or Liverpool, because there's a home element with a Basque manager in Mikel Arteta, and I think that will appeal to him more than looking at Liverpool or looking at Manchester City as being the springboard to take him up, not just trophies, but to elevate him above Rodri in the Spanish rankings. He just seems very content to just coast. And listen, I'm not going to double back on it. I wanted him in a big way last year when the links come out. I was very excited, and I was very disappointed when he didn't make the move to Liverpool. But again, it's one of those weird ones where it's probably aged well in Liverpool's favour. You looked at it and you think there's no way Liverpool are going to age this rejection well, and they do. They end up winning the league, and Gravenberch becomes a standout performer in midfield, in Europe. So, yeah, I think with him, he's just. I would think you just steer well clear. I think he's just, obviously, it sounds like he is messing about a little bit. Again, if reports be believed, obviously Ornstein seems to think it's done, which obviously Arsenal fans will be hoping it is. But
I don't think sure with him.
No, I don't think he's got that will do anything to win mentality. And again, Arsenal need that. They need winners in the squad. And again, I agree with what you said about the number 9. Osimhen, he's won the Serie A. He's now won the Turkish league. And yes, okay, I get it. The Turkish league's not a top 5 league, but winning breeds winning. And if he's just coming off a winning season, then it'd be something that they could put in the squad that they don't have. But yeah, we'll only time will tell with that Zubamendi one. But it screams of him wanting to go after 18 months and not settle in, and I just don't think you could be dealing with it. But
that's not the player you want to sign when you've got Liverpool running away with it. No, because you need someone that's going to get stuck in. And I think he's already showed his hand. He's a fucking weak individual.
Yeah, no, he is. He is. Yeah, I don't think. I think you said apart from Alexander-Isak, I mean, my claim would be I don't think the players are available on the market for Arsenal to close the gap on Liverpool this summer. That's my gut feeling. I don't think we'll go on to incomings in a second, but for what Liverpool have got and what they've done already and what they intend to do, Sesko and Zubimendi doesn't put Arsenal onto Liverpool's level, in my opinion. Well, I mean, the segue into perfectly then into the kind of final segment before the questions. So, guys, please keep getting the questions in because we will go through them at the end. We're looking forward to that. But look, obviously, the first one through the door, Liverpool have been active. They've been busy. It's been great to see. Strengthening from a position of power, which has been great. The first through the door, it was probably the worst kept secret for the last couple of months, was Jeremy Frimpong. Rick, I mean, he just seems, I mean, apart from the player, I mean, looking at the interviews, he just seems like vibes galore. What a great fella. How excited are you to see Jeremy Frimpong and what do you think he's going to bring to Liverpool?
Yeah, massively. I mean, you just see like behind the scenes when he signed with his family that they're like so pleased to be at Liverpool Football Club. He even said to his dad, "I'm joining your club." I mean, they're the players you want it through the door. You don't want players that are not really interested who you got to sort of like try and persuade to come in. You want people that want to come through the door to join what we're doing. And I mean, the pace of him is frightening. Isn't it? If you see some of the videos and you watched him in Bundesliga last year, if someone was clean through on goal, I wouldn't worry about it if he's running back chasing the guy because blistering pace. He can score. We see it for Leverkusen. He's got assists in his locker. He's not the same player as Trent. It'll be a different type of setup with him in the team. But I do think he starts ahead of Bradley. I see people having debates online that it'll be Bradley that starts. I think Frimpong's coming in to start. So I think we set up a little bit different next season, but we'll go into that later on. But it's exciting. Listen, for 29 million in today's market, it's a steal.
Yeah.
And he's only going to get better. Playing with better players, better coaching staff. There's only one way up for him.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's like you just said, Rick, the price of it as well is phenomenal. Ben, I know we'd obviously spoken about Jeremy Frimpong before. You've seen him in person, obviously Anfield in the Champions League. While he's played Liverpool, you spoke very highly of him back then, which was obviously back last year. I know he's someone that you were very keen for Liverpool to move on. Can you see why Liverpool have done this deal and why they were so keen to get it done early?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, they've got a player that's got a good way about him. He knows some of our players already. You know, he's already got that Dutch connection. I think it was an opportunity they couldn't turn down. I think they did. You know, if they're looking at some of the players and then they worked out how much he was costing, probably nearly fell over when they found out how much he was going to cost. Let's be honest, take the release clause out of it. It's probably a £50 million player going off all the fees going around. That seems to be the common trend for a fullback these days, as we know, and we'll talk about one in particular shortly. But look, I looked at him at Anfield close up and I thought he was brilliant. The pace is what we'd lack at the minute. Massive. And like, you know, when I see, obviously, one of the comments Mark's mentioning about formation and setup and stuff, we'll go into a bit more, but I just think him in particular is going to cause problems for opposition because they're going to have him blitzing down the sides and that's going to open gaps for Salah. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's what Liverpool have lacked a bit because look, and I'm going to mention the fucker again, but Trent, you know, probably was the perfect time to lose him this year. Yeah, that soft bastard, do you know what I mean? I'm not going to talk about him because I'll lose my head, but... probably the perfect time to lose him now because we don't play to his strengths as much anymore. Now you can see Slot pushing, and I think we're going to start pinning teams in. And if you watch the clips, we'll look at the goal that he scored at Anfield. He's been trickery forcing it. Do you know what I mean? And you know the little flicks from Wirtz to him in the box, and I think you're going to see more of that. I can see him going round the side of Salah a lot and. The pace he's got in the recovery. I agree with what Rick's saying. I think he sees himself as starting at Liverpool. Because I love Conor Bradley, but I just don't know if he's got the engine to go past 60 minutes. He's blowing out of his arse on 60. He ain't come about just to sit on the bench. There's no way.
No, I would agree. I think Slot's also signing players that will enable him to play different formations as well. I think
we've done that a few times, changing formation within the games, didn't we?
Absolutely. I think we try to sometimes look at it as we kind of played more of like a 4-2-1-3, 4-3-3 kind of formation last year. And I think we're trying to look at it be a bit different. But obviously the big one, yesterday morning, the news broke across Europe and the world that Liverpool had agreed a deal with Bayer Leverkusen for their superstar Florian Wirtz. We're looking at fees banded around 137.5 million euros. We know it's £100 million guaranteed, plus potentially 16.5 million in add-ons. So it would take him to the British transfer record should the add-ons be met. Rick, I mean, this signing here, mate, how good is this? How good is Florian Wirtz?
Mate, I've been following Wirtz before he went Leverkusen. Absolute unreal talent. Unbelievable. I mean, he's the best player in that position. If you wanted Liverpool to make a statement signing after winning the Premier League, to go and sign the best number 10 in world football, they've done it. And I just, going back to Richard Hughes with the deal, I think he deserves massive credit to get the golden boy out of Germany, who, before he went to Leverkusen, where he was, Bayern Munich was supposed to sign him. Then they didn't. They let him go to Leverkusen to let him develop there, play first-team football. He's turned into an absolute superstar. I've never seen someone come back from an ACL injury as good as he has. And again, to get him out of Germany is unbelievable. And rival teams, fans, Liverpool have no pull. When Klopp goes, no one's going to want to go there. Well, we've just took the one. I mean, there's only two players on par with his level of football, which is Pedri and Musiala. I think they're the only two players that come close to the level Wirtz is. Wirtz will win us games on his own next season. He will free up Salah as well, because you're going to have teams wanting to man-mark him in games. Anyone else signs this summer, Wirtz is the transfer of the summer. It's done. Like I said earlier, any strikers now licking their lips if we're linked to them, because who they've got behind them in Wirtz. You see some of the video clips. There's one where he just absolutely destroys Gravenberg. I don't know if people that delete that clip out of the video. But I mean, the skill of him, the one touch, the passing, the vision from him. He's 22 years of age.
Yeah,
and it's like he's in his prime already. So it's going to be frightening in 3-4 years' time what this kid can do. And we talk about Ballon d'Or shouts. This kid will win a Ballon d'Or, whether it's with Liverpool or whether it's with someone else later on in life. This kid is the one for me. I think there ain't better out there than him. We missed out on players like Jude Bellingham in the past, and everyone was like, yeah.
Thank fuck.
We've now just smashed our record, club record, transfer fee, potential Premier League. He'll smash that Premier League one easily. Them add-ons will be easily met because the success he'll bring to us. I mean, you just see that even Bayern Munich, they might be salty where we've took him away from them. I think the director of football said, listen, he will do it at Liverpool. There's no doubt about this kid. He will do it there. So if people wanted him to flop, rival fans waiting for next season to see him flop, it ain't happening. Not with this kid.
No, I agree. I mean, Ben, I think it's now been reliably reported, obviously by Joyce yesterday, Paul Joyce, that Liverpool have beaten Real Madrid, Manchester City, Bayern Munich, to name the big three, and others. Fabrizio Romano said there was a lot of clubs in there. I mean, the size of this coup for Liverpool is astronomical. I mean, what do you think he saw at Liverpool from the club, from Arne Slot, that made him think this is the place where he can win Champions Leagues, he can win Premier Leagues, he can win a Ballon d'Or? Why do you think Liverpool have landed his signature?
I think they've got one of the most attractive football projects, haven't they? It's one where you could grow, and it's ultimately it's a team that needs a top number 10. Do you know what I mean? I just don't think Szoboszlai's not that 10, is he? Let's make no mistake about it. I think he's going to be moved back in to fight for the number 8. But I think he's been sold a phenomenal dream that I think he's been told we're building a team around you. I think he's viewed as probably a mixture of Salah replacement and Trent. Because obviously Salah gets a lot of assists, doesn't he? I think that's where they're going down that route. Maybe 2 players to replace Salah, number 9 and number 10. But look, you've got to remember there's only a select few clubs like who can take you to serious levels of football. He could go to Bayern Munich. But the biggest thing I'm impressed with him, right, is not just how good of a player he is. It's the fact that he could have went and had an easy option and probably more money. That's the rumoured talk, isn't he? He could have had way more wages at Bayern Munich. But he went, nah, fuck that. I'm going to step out of my comfort zone and go for the prize. And look, if he does it for Liverpool, which I expect him to, he's a serious player. I've seen him live against us, and even though we battered them, he was still quality. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't their night, of course. Liverpool were on fire at the time. But it's everything will be set up to run rings around teams, and he'll be the focal point. For Bayern Leverkusen, he's been their Gerrard. I don't know if anyone knows, but there's a great show on the Redmen TV that they do, the deep dive with Josh Williams and Chris Pajak. Shout out to them lads. But they go into in-depth, and they went in-depth on Florian Wirtz, and they were comparing how many times he has the ball, averaging per 90. And he averages more than Lionel Messi at prime Barcelona. He's averaging 80 touches per game. So you could see that he was the Steven Gerrard of Bayern Leverkusen, constantly just get him the ball. And I think that's what Arne Slot sold him the dream on, is we're going to do the same here. Obviously, Liverpool will have to change the way a bit because they give the ball a lot to Mo and try and feed it in. But, this kid, if you're looking at redesigning your football team, you don't want your creativeness coming from the right back, do you? You want it in the number 10 eye of the pitch. And he's not just a creator, he's a fucking workhorse as well. And I see him tearing shit out of this league because I think he'll gain better qualities by playing in the Liverpool side, not only because of how good we are, but how quick the league pace is. I think he's designed for that. German's football's slower. So I think he's going to cut teams to pieces being at Liverpool, and I think it is unbelievable.
Yeah, I would agree. I think for anyone that hasn't seen him, we can, and there will be many more pods talking, about Florian Wirtz, whether it's exclusively or in passing. There's going to be lots more. But I think for anyone that hasn't seen him, I think all you got to do is look at the fact that if Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes and FSG are sanctioning a British record transfer fee for a player, they're going to be pretty bloody good. So,
mate, and this is not just a quick fix. I caught wind of it at the end of March that Liverpool were keen on Wirtz, and at the time, from the person who told me, I didn't think. I was like, fucking hell, are we going to spend all that money? Rick, I even mentioned it to you, didn't I? There's little comments on Twitter, people go back to it, but it shocked me. And then as soon as it came out, you knew. As soon as it properly come out, you knew Liverpool weren't fucking losing this.
He's that player that you look at from a distance and you can't even imagine having them in your team. You just look at them as being unobtainable. So I think the fact that we pulled it off, it's just
major coup, game changer.
Like Rick said, I mean, this won't even be the signing of this summer. This won't be trumped for a few windows. You won't see a deal this good go through. Like I said, I mean, we could be here until early hours in the morning talking about Florian Wirtz. We can get excited about early next week about him flying in and the announcement. I'm really excited to see what the very improved Liverpool admin media team are going to do. I must say they've been really on it with some of the announcements for the contracts in the transfers. So I'm excited to see that next week. But the other person that's not in the door, but I mean, it's probably the worst kept secret in football and has been for the last 6 weeks.
Back lunch waiting.
He is literally sat there getting a Liverpool tattoo on holiday at the moment. It's current Bournemouth left back, soon to be Liverpool left back. The Hungarian Milos Kerkez, who I think will probably break very soon that he will be moving to Liverpool. Obviously, we discussed the Andy Robertson situation earlier, Rick. Regardless if he stays or goes, obviously Liverpool have been in need of some TLC in those back areas. Frimpong on the right, Kerkez on the left. I mean, that's not going to be very fun, is it, for many teams moving forward with that pace and energy? What is he going to bring to Liverpool, and how excited are you to see him in a Liverpool shirt next season?
He's Andy Robertson's region, isn't he? There's that same mould as what Robbo was in his prime under Klopp. Frightening pace again in Kerkez. Got a mean cross in him. You see him score a worldie against, was it Newcastle, where he looked down and out on his feet and then all of a sudden sprinted halfway up the pitch to score a goal. Van Dijk and Konate are probably going to be looking at each other quite a few times next season. I think, Jesus, where is everyone? But again, when we talk about the questions in the chat about what sort of formation setup do you think we'll play, I think you're going to see Gravenberch as a centre half a lot of times. Like we see it this season. He did it this season, Gravenberch. Slot weren't scared to put Gravenberch in the centre half position.
Got sent off as well, so hopefully that's not
he misses the first game, didn't he? So, but could you imagine, like, rival teams' fullbacks, centre halves, 50 minutes in the game, and you still got these two just bursting up the pitch at you.
I've got a bit of snide about them as well.
Oh yeah, We've seen it with Bournemouth this season. Kerkez ain't scared of a little cheeky tackle here and there, and obviously Frimpong will get stuck in as well.
But we lacked as well last year at times. Like, sometimes we were a bit too nice.
Mate, I'm sure we've been we have. If you look at the fair play table, I'm sure we're top of that 4 times out of the last 5 seasons. We're scared to pick up yellow cards. We need someone that's willing to just do a Fernandinho tackle in midfield, like with Aaron and Rodri, and they're the same players. Like, you need someone that's got a bit of a Wirtz. Listen, you could tell Wirtz the deal was done when he was willing to fight Bernardo Silva and Bruno Fernandes in the Germany-Portugal game.
And
Ruben Diaz, yeah. I like that though. Like, people saying, Kerkez is too vocal on social media. I don't mind that. I like it.
He knows where he wants to be, doesn't he?
If they want to interact on their socials, let them do it. Like, it's good for fans to see. They're not robots, are they? They're humans. So it's good to see it. I just think, that team next season, depending on who else comes through the door, it's game over. I'm telling you now, I'll say it, we're going back to back already. I'm not even.
Yeah, I think. Do you know what? Just before we move on to the questions, Mark, because I know you want to put some of the stuff up for the boys.
Yep.
It's just a question to you, because obviously you've been throwing the questions at us. What are Liverpool saying to these players? Because these are top targets, and all you're hearing in the media is they're not speaking to anybody else.
Yeah, do you know what? I think it starts with one particular player, or 2 players, and that's Van Dijk and Salah. I think those 2 were the first cog in getting people to stay. Liverpool have just won the league at a canter under the first season of a new manager. They've seen 2 of the best superstars in the world are extended. Liverpool have just signed the best young talent, and not even just young number 10, just the best young talent around, outside of probably Lamine Yamal. Players are going to follow that. They probably don't even have to do a hard sell. But I do think you have to give a lot of love to Arne Slot. I think you have to just look at how it's been published as a deal this big with Florian Wirtz. It's going to be well publicised from start to finish how this deal happened, because the journos are going to get plenty of clicks out of a deal this size. And I think the way he's described probably what he's going to do and how he's going to elevate Wirtz's career, he's clear about it, he's concise about it, he has obviously a clear plan of what he's going to do. It's obviously clear to Wirtz that he's not just going to be pulled in because he's on the market, he's being pulled in for a purpose. And then I think that the targets will follow. I mean, Rick made a comment earlier, and I'm going to ask you guys in a minute about names, but it's obvious Liverpool are looking at a number 9 this summer. It's been, on the lips of Liverpool Football Club for the last 6 months. As we know, Darwin Núñez just hasn't quite worked out. If you're a number 9, whether you're Alexander Isak, whether you're, Hugo Ekitike, Kerkez, you're going to look at this and think, I'm going to have probably one of the best creative units on the planet behind me. I just have to stand there and do my job, and I'm going to elevate to new levels. As I mentioned, obviously, I just mentioned a couple there. I think finishing up on the incomings. I mean, obviously, I think there's 2 obvious areas that Liverpool will look to strengthen, which is the centre-back area and the striker. Before we go on to the exciting one, number 9, the centre-back one is a bit of a weird one. Obviously, we've got 2 players that seem to be mainstays in Virgil van Dijk and Ibrahim Konate. But we've got 2 behind them. Joe Gomez, obviously injury-prone, struggles to keep fit. And then we've got Jarell Quansah, who, well publicised in the first game of the season, it was pulled off at half-time. I think he's probably safe to say he struggled to really nail down a solid place at Liverpool. It looks like he may move on. Rick, who would you move on if not both of them, and who would you be looking to bring in? And have you heard any names of people that Liverpool might be looking at?
I'd move both of them on if the price is all right for both. There's 3 names I'd bring in. Oh, not all, obviously all 3. The 3 names I'd be looking at, and I'll tell you the one that will be more likely. So I'll be looking at Bastoni, Inter Milan, Hato from Ajax, because he's a hybrid. He can play left back and he can play centre back. So if you get rid of Costas and Robbo, you've still got Hato that can play left back as well as centre back. The one Diamonde is there as well. But the one I do think they'll bring in, I think they'll bring Mark Guay from Palace. I think he's got a year left on his deal. Price won't be high. And I think he'd be willing to be third choice behind Van Dijk and Konate. That's who I think they'll bring in. But listen, if we got Wirtz out of Germany, everyone thought that was mission impossible. Let's see if we can get Bastoni out of Inter Milan and Italy. That would be the one for. That's the dream one, Bastoni for me. That's Van Dijk's replacement there, long term.
Yeah, absolutely. Ben, I'll throw you. I know you have your ear to the ground, and you hear a few names. You mentioned Wirtz that you sent over to both of us way before it came out in the press. I mean, centre back wise, before we move on to number 9, if you Gomez and Kwanzaa, what would you do with the pair of them? And names that you would bring in, and names that you may have heard that Liverpool are interested in.
Gomez and Kwanzaa. I don't think you can lose 2 of them. Well, no, it seems like there's a lot going on. Maybe you could look to move one of them now and maybe one Jan or the end of the season. Maybe, I don't know, if you lose 2 centre halves, then you need 2 straight away. And you know, we've talked about fucking Diaz and all that shit. There's a lot that could be going on. If I was going to lose one, I'd lose Kwanzaa. I think he holds value. I don't think you get much out of Joe Gomez personally. And look, fucking if Joe Gomez is fit, he can do a job anyway. Let's make no mistake about it. He's been so good for Liverpool. I'm not a fan of that Kwanzaa personally. I don't want to sound like I'm slamming him, but yeah, for me, he's not the right player. He's got too many mistakes in him, and he doesn't seem to learn. But look, wish him well, and I think Liverpool could get 30-35 million quid for him. Players coming in. There was a name I got, but I mean, Rick's just mentioned it there, and for me, it is, you know, it would be the one I would go for, and it is a name that apparently Richard Hughes really likes, and it is Bastoni. Look, I'll be honest. I think we could talk about the Kwanzaa and Gomez talk. I think a lot depends on Konate. I think because if Konate is not going to sign a deal, they're going to have to go for the top target, aren't they? If Konate's going, they ain't buying a Mark Gay to start against Virgil van Dijk. And I'm not having a dig at that. I think he's a target as well, Mark Gay. I think as it currently stands right now, a lot of the funds that they're going to bring in from, pardon me, from the sales that's going to be getting targeted next, which we all know about, they won't want all the money going on the centre half. Let's face it, who's going to be 3rd, 4th choice. He'll have to go a lot of predominantly on the number 9, which we'll talk about. So I think, you know, from what I'm aware of, Bastoni is the top target for centre half, as he would be. You can't say, after what they're doing now, the target and starters, aren't they? The names that they've signed and are about to sign, the starters for the team, aren't they? So we'll have to see on that one. But yeah, Bastoni was a name that I'd heard about. I don't know if anything's come out about it. You may see it in from now until the end, but you know, Richard Hughes got big connections in Italy. As look, the first signing through the door, Chiesa from Italy. So we'll have to see on that front. But I could see 2 names that I think that would be attractive. No, I'm going to say another name as well. I mentioned it to you the other day, Matt, which I'll get to in a minute. But I could see Mark Gay being a target. I think they could see value there. Where, in my opinion, he'd be a great squad filler for Kwanzaa. Do you know what I mean? I think he could do a job at Liverpool, Mark Gay. Another name I wouldn't be shying away from is Lekeba from Leipzig. I think that'd be someone who's on the target list for Liverpool. And do you know what? I mentioned it as a joke the other day, and I've seen, and not that I'd go off this, but I mean, Indy Kayla put a thing out, didn't he? I said to you the other day, Marty, don't be surprised if that Romero's name comes out. And not that I did, and it was just off the back of Matt McAllister talking about it. I wouldn't be surprised at all in that. I really wouldn't. He was saying how good he was, and I think there's players to get out of space at the minute because they're in such an uncertain place. I think a few people will take a few of the players because they were shitter than they actually were last year. So that Romero was something to watch because obviously a few people are now talking about it. But they'd be the names. If I was going to pick one, I'm going to say Lekeba.
Yeah, he's been long linked with Liverpool. He certainly fits the profile of someone Liverpool would be interested in. I think the Bastoni one would be the
He's the pinnacle. You can tell from what they've bought already.
Yeah,
they're shopping on the top table, aren't they?
Exactly that. Liverpool are shopping in a pool specifically, they're not looking at lower. I don't think they're looking at lower end players. I don't think Gay may not be in the mold of Florian Wirtz or Bastoni. I think he's a clever signing, and I think you talk about opportunistic market signings. I think he would be one. Premier League experience. You could trust him in a run of games. Yeah, absolutely. I think Bastoni, from whispers that are being heard, I think he is quite discontent at the situation with Inter Milan at the moment. He's being played predominantly. Obviously, they play like a back five, don't they? Typical Italian formation. He seems to be quite wide left a lot of the time, and it seems to be that he's not quite enjoying himself. So maybe this is the summer that Liverpool go and test the players' results.
In the next 18 months, Liverpool are prepared to wait if it's the right player. He will be the one that they've got their eye on for soon, because you've got to remember, Virgil van Dijk eventually is going to need to be replaced. I don't think Liverpool would want to see him going to any fucking rival, certainly not in the Premier League.
No. I think if he becomes available, I think Liverpool will be at the front of the queue for Bastoni. And I think the final bit of business that Liverpool will do will obviously be that number 9. Now, that's a sexy position in the squad. It's the one that gets everyone excited. It's the one that we desperately need. As we mentioned, Darwin Núñez, as funny as he is and as likeable as he can be, it just hasn't worked for Liverpool. So they are going to be looking for a new number 9 to spearhead the attack next year. I mean, there has been multiple names linked so far. Obviously, Alexander Isak, again, as we talk about, like Bastoni, he is, I think, the marquee name. I think, unfortunately, Newcastle getting Champions League made that already tough deal very, very tough, if not impossible, this summer. Other name that's been mentioned strongly is Hugo Ekitike. He seems to be one that is being mentioned almost daily at the moment from the German press. But there's other names that are floating about, not necessarily linked strongly with Liverpool, but obviously we talked Benjamin Sesko, who's been linked with Arsenal. You've got Victor Gyökeres, obviously at Sporting. Victor Osimhen at Napoli. Rick,
he's someone you like as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk about kind of my theory of Victor Osimhen shortly. I mean, Rick, there's a few names, different profiles. Obviously Ekitike, Sesko, the younger, more kind of maybe a Darwin Núñez-esque gamble. You've got more of maybe what you look as a sure thing with Gyökeres and Osimhen. Is there anyone that I haven't mentioned that you like the look of? And what do you think Liverpool will do? Do you think they'll go down the project route, or do you think they'll look for more of a sure thing?
Ben's been trying to persuade me on Ekitike all week, sending me videos of him.
That's not my choice.
I'm all in on Isak. I mean, I think there's a reason why Liverpool ain't been linked to many names at the minute. I think July is a crucial month in Isak. There's supposed to be contract talks with Newcastle. I think he's got 2 years left on his deal. 3. So there's still some time on his deal, but they're looking to get him on a new one. I think if he turns this new deal down, Liverpool will jump all over it. They'll go big. Listen, we've got the money to go big for one more player if we want, and I think they'll wait it out till the middle of July for a striker. I think there's a reason why Chelsea are now backed out the Ekitike deal, because I think he's told them that he's potentially waiting for Liverpool to see what happens. But Isak is the one. I mean, people are concerned about his injury record. I'm not. We've done quite well with injuries last season under the new coaching staff. But, yeah, the striker market, listen, there's quite pants in it, really, if you're looking at it. Gyökeres, there's a reason why teams ain't jumped on him. There's got to be something there. Like, I know he's a goal machine. Like, he's done it for Coventry in the Championship. So he's played in England. He knows what it's about. Championship's a tougher league than the Premier in terms of physicality. So he's passed that test. He's now gone to Sport and he's doing it in Europe as well. But there just seems to be something off with him where teams ain't took a gamble on him. Sesko, I'm not too sure. I just think he's another Havertz, if you want my opinion on that. So if it's not Isak, it's got to be Ekitike for me, because I just don't think there's anyone else is there. And I think if you're looking at
stats, not many of them, is there?
But if you look at stats and the way they play, Ekitike is the closest to an Isak in terms of performance, not performance, in terms of way they play. The numbers, if you look at not like goals and assists, but if you look around at the whole game, he seems that mould. But for me, if Isak any chance, there's 1% chance of getting Isak in July, Liverpool need to go all out for it. We have to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is, as Ali just said there, I just had a look myself. Kerkez's priority is to join Arsenal. I mean, it sounds like they're still looking at that Sesko deal, so whether that is something that goes ahead, I'm not sure. Ben, I mean, I think Ekitike, out of this little group, a pool of players that we talk about, I think Ekitike is the one that Liverpool will go for. But I think that is if they cannot do a deal for Alexander-Isak. I think Alexander-Isak is by far and away Liverpool's number one target. I think he ticks every single box. I think Liverpool have got the money. Do you think that Liverpool could do a deal to get Alexander-Isak this summer, or do you think it would be more likely that they would sit on what they've got, move for him next year? What do you think the situation is around Isak?
He most certainly is Liverpool's top target, make no mistake about it. It's clear as day. You know, he's the only real one, apart from the Ekitike link, that has been linked to proper journalists as well. Make no mistake about it, Liverpool have been in his ear for time. You know, goes back to Michael Edwards' first stint at the club as well. He was the one that he wanted to bring in, and obviously he then had this falling out with Klopp, and Liverpool went down a different route, and now they're left with trying to clean up that kind of mess, aren't they, for the number 9 position? Because let's be honest, Liverpool have played without the number 9 for a long time now. It's fucking with shoe on and things, you know what I mean? We'll go through some of the comments shortly. I can see a few names, but yeah, I think on this one, Liverpool have got to be really careful how they go about it, because is it worth running the risk of waiting for him? I know the quality in the player, but you then give fucking opportunity to others to get in his ear as well. And I know we're talking about how strong Liverpool are in the market, but well, just on the look of the club. But the problem then is that you're going to lose Ekitike. And they've already had that situation with the Caicedo and the Lavia thing when they fucking jumped around Lavia to try and get Caicedo. And I just think it'll come to a point whereby they'll probably go with bringing in the player as opposed to waiting. So if they can't get him this summer, I'll be shocked if they did wait this time, because I feel like it's a risk, isn't it? You could end up with none of the players. So I think the only way Liverpool wait is if he signs a new deal with a breakout clause.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think there's any denying the fact that he is the number one target. I can't see. I think people underestimate just how powerful Piff actually are that own Newcastle. You know, that Champions League, you know, it wasn't a revenue thing. It was purely from the fact that I think Isak would have probably been able to put more pressure on Newcastle to sell him for sporting reasons. I think the fact they've got Champions League, and I think what the Saudis will be looking to build, I just can't see them sanctioning a deal for Alexander-Isak. I think it will be Ekitike. I don't think Alexander-Isak's in a position where he particularly wants to push. I think if the Liverpool move came, I think he would take it if he was able to. But I personally don't think he's in a position where he's going to upset the apple cart too much at Newcastle to the point where he pushes for a move. I think one thing I would like to see, we kind of referenced it a few times, is obviously with Napoli's interest in a couple of players for Liverpool, Darwin Núñez, Federico Chiesa. I'd be asking the conditions around the deal for Victor Osimhen. I think he, for me, on the market, is probably the most, outside of Isak aside, I think he's the most sure thing you can buy to a guaranteed goal scorer, Osimhen. He's led 2 different teams to 2 different titles in 2 different leagues. He does it on the international stage. He's got Champions League experience. He is still at a pretty decent age as well. He's not too old. He's not too young that he's a project. I think financially we could work the transfer fee out very comfortably with Napoli, with the players they're interested in. Obviously, it would depend on his wages. You know, there seems to be, he's one of these players that seem to have a reputation for a bad attitude and being a mercenary. Again, I'm not sure where this has come from. You know, we heard similar things. Yeah, I mean, we'd heard, it was like when Gravenberch signed, people going, he's a lazy bastard. He doesn't, and then you look at him now and that's just not true. So I'd be keen for Liverpool to know. I mean, there were rumours that Liverpool did feel him out in January for a transfer. It's just a case that there was too many moving parts because Galatasaray were involved, and it just wouldn't have made sense, which is why I think the Darwin Núñez to Saudi move was pulled. But that's one I would like to see Liverpool at least explore.
He would be a good signing for Liverpool, and he'd put the shits up teams, you know what I mean? Like, I've just been reading the thing about Gyökeres. I think Gyökeres is a cracking signing. But But the problem is, right, Arsenal, as good as they need more than just a fucking striker. Do you know what I mean? I think he'd score a load of goals for Liverpool. Ultimately, Liverpool needs someone who puts the ball in the back of the net, not the ball over the fucking cop, as we've had for a few years. And I know it's funny, and we've all had a joke about it, but ultimately, I'm fucking sick of laughing at Darwin's fucking mistakes, me. And at the end of the day, we've done well to get where we are. Now it's time, just get the shite out now. We're too good of a football team to have people fucking things up. And you'd seen it with Slot. When you give him opportunities, for instance, he starts shaking his head and stuff, and that's why it no longer was in the side at the end. So I agree. I think Victor Osimhen would be a great signing. Do I think it'd happen? I don't know. It's just a worry on the attitude thing which you've just been speaking about, and I think that you'd get a bit of a strop out of him if it didn't go his way. And I think Liverpool will worry about that. Just, do you know what they are? They were treading on eggshells when Mane and Salah were having a bit of a, to and fro, weren't they? And I think you'd get more out of Osimhen, especially the way they're going with the young player route. He's a little bit older, so he's going to have a lot to say. He does have a lot to say. That's he's quite vocal, isn't he? He doesn't keep things quiet. I've always thought he'd end up at Chelsea. He is a top player. Don't make no mistake about it. But if I'm going to put my neck on the line, I think it'll be Ekatike as well.
Yeah, I think if I had to put money on it, I'd go Ekatike. Yeah, well, I mean, we will hopefully the next pod or two, we will have a little bit more.
Before we go through some of the questions, I know because they wanted you to throw a few out, I think.
Yeah, let's do it. So do you go through the questions, pop these up, and we'll go through and take it in turns to answer different ones. If you want to pop them up, lads, on the
I'll put them up and you two can go through them. Let me see where they start from. Trying to avoid all the Alexander-Arnold fucking names so it doesn't come on screen.
Yeah, he's banned.
Yeah, let me just see. Right, because there was a few good ones. Marty, quick for you. This is off Mark Burke, good friend of the show. I think Diaz moves late on in the window. Barca bound. Still, I'm thinking. Do you think he's going to go to Barca?
I think it's as black and white as if they put the money up. Yeah, I think that's his priority. I just doubt that they can afford it. But I think Mark's got a shout. Yeah, I could see it happening later in the window. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Rick, the next question is for you, if I can find it. From Mark again. What kind of setup and formation do you think will play in the new coming season?
I think if we don't sign a striker, you'll see the formation that we went away to City. 4-2-4 was it? That would be the formation. You'd have 2 10s in Szoboszlai and Wirtz. Wirtz would be the playmaker. Szoboszlai would be the runner from in between that and midfield.
Mark, quick one. What formation are you thinking? How do you think we'll set up?
I don't think we've seen the formation that we're going to play next year yet. I think it's going to be fluid. I think he's signing players to play multiple different formations. I think what Rick said, you'll see the 4-2-4. I think you'll see a 4-2-1-3. We could be here all night. I think there'll be lots and lots of different tweaks and movements and different variations of it.
Rick, just a quick one for Gary's comments here. Cheers, Gary, for putting it in. I'll just short it, so I won't go through all of it. Can Gay play in our system, Rick?
Yeah.
Marty, same to you?
I think so.
Okay. Yes or no, Rick? Vlahovic to Liverpool?
Nah. I mean, yeah, nah. I've seen better strikers over the park. Nah.
I knew that one was coming, lad, over the park. That good old one. Mart, can he play for Liverpool?
He's not for me, no.
All right, then. What about this one, then? Where's it gone? Quick one. Julian Alvarez, Mart.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's just not happening. He moved there last year. He hates the English weather. He's got a buyout clause that needs to be paid in full. Yeah, absolutely agree. He's a top player. And if I could buy anyone outside of Isak, it'd be him.
Yeah.
Not happening.
Rick, would you buy him?
No.
You wouldn't buy him?
No. Only purely because I think him and Wirtz would get in each other's way. The way they play, I think you need a proper striker.
Have to move out of each other's way, then, won't they?
Yeah, no, I just think with Wirtz you need a proper number 9.
Okay, then.
Not
last one before we go over to Marty to end the show. Start with you first, Rick, because you've just spoke. Would you sign a big winger if we can't get a big boy striker? This is from Ali.
Yeah.
If so, name one.
Nico Williams.
Okay. Mart, same question to you.
Yeah, we've had this conversation. I'd move if that was going to happen. I'd move Diaz back to being central again, and then I would look at getting. I mean, I like Nico Williams. I think if I could get him, I would get him. Kvaratskhelia would have been my number one option. But yeah, I think anyone. To be honest with you, anyone that's pacey and can take a man on, I'd be open to it.
I'd want Spain's Nico Williams, not Athletic Bilbao's Nico Williams, though. They're two different players.
Yeah, they are. I swear there's a third brother in there.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it?
Do you know what? Just before I give it back to you, Leao is a name that's coming up. I don't know if I can see that happening, but look, we've had the chat on Rodrigo. The more I look at Rodrigo, I could see it being a statement signing as well. If Liverpool did it, I just don't know if Arsenal to set up for him. I would do it actually, just to pick Real Madrid off, because I think in our setup he'd be appreciated more. Do you not agree?
Yeah, I think so. I think I think it would fit our system a lot better as well. I think he'd do all right at Arsenal. I think it depends. It completely depends. I mean, he's obviously his gripe is that he wants to play left wing. There's potentially a vacancy at both sides. I just never know with Rodrigo. I do think he's slightly overrated. I think he's got Brazil and Real Madrid tax attached to him. I wouldn't be paying this 100 million euros for him, that's for sure. But I think he'd be okay. But I wouldn't be going out of my way to move Diaz on to get him in. Would be my feeling. I think that would be a move for the sake of a move.
You may as well finish off and then shut up the show, Matt. Who do you think would be the cover for Kerkez if both of them go?
I like Hato.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I like Hato. I think even if it's not him, I think that profile, versatile, that can do centre back and left back, would have been, to be honest with you, if he kept fit, it wouldn't have surprised me if they'd gone with Joe Gomez, but he's just not reliable enough fitness-wise. So I think there's a reason that Hato was at Anfield earlier on in the season, put it that way.
Yeah, well, what a show, lads. Good first show.
Awesome show, yeah. I mean, again, like and subscribe, please, people. And thank you all, people that are here live, people that are going to be tuning in after we've gone off air and watching this back. The comments, the likes, the messages, the love we had before we even went live has been honestly awesome. We were all so excited to get this started. I think just getting the first shot out of the way, we're even more excited to bring you some great content. I mean, there were so many subjects just in this show that we could have just talked about.
Good to get it all out for the first one for everyone, wasn't it? And have a good little chat for the highs and the lows.
Absolutely, yeah. And like I said, obviously, it's the summer, it's transfer window. It's going to be very transfer heavy over the next few weeks, but we've done lots of planning, and we're going to have guests coming in, people that you recognise from Twitter. And then we're going to have some other ideas coming up for when the transfers go to bed for a few months. We've got some other stuff coming in. We'll do season reviews. We're going to be making us look like tips by doing quizzes and putting each other on the spot. It's going to be fun. We'll get you guys involved as much as we can. But as you can see here, and then for Ben, Rick, this is our Twitter handles. So for anyone that doesn't follow, please do follow. Interact with us on Twitter as well. But lads, it has been an absolute pleasure. We've done an hour and 50. I think that's a pretty good stint for the first one back. Pleasure, lads, honestly. Any final thoughts from you two before we sign off?
Look, we've got a few ideas coming up. Oh, fucking hell, is Mikel Arteta. Fucking hell. Here he is. But no, look, it's been a good show. It's been a while. We've planned it for a bit. We've got some boss mates of ours and, journalists who want to come on as well. I can probably say the name. He's said he's going to be coming on this week or next. Lewis Steele's going to be coming on. So, yeah, for me, I'm buzzing with it. I'm made up we've got back on. I'm terrible with technology, so still a, thing to sort out and fucking nearly deleting emails and everything today. So we're lucky we even went live. But yeah, look, for me, it was great. And Matt, great to host it. You've done really well as well, mate. I will get some questions across to you. Sure, Rick will more in the next show. But lads, that was brilliant. I'm made up with it.
Absolutely. No, well, look, boys, it's been an absolute pleasure. And it's been a pleasure sharing time with all you guys in the comments. Already excited to do the next one. And please, any ideas you have, ping it to us on Twitter. I'll be happy to look at different ideas for the show. But until next time, we'll let you know when we'll be going live. And we will see you next time. Peace out.